Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners. Raised up the children to worship their images. Set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for joining me. This is a topic that's very near and dear to me, and I hope that this is of importance to you all. You see, today we're diving into something that could change the game for many Black Americans. How you can secure reparations in less than 3 months by following 3 simple steps. If you guys aren't familiar with me, I'm a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, and as a genealogist, I help Black Americans trace their ancestral roots. What many of us don't realize is that there's already a reparations package available to us that have ties to indigenous tribes. Have you ever heard of the Treaty of 1866? This treaty was a reparations package created for Black people in Indian Territory. This includes enslaved people owned by Native Americans, free people of color, Black Indians, and freedmen. While we wait and hope for reparations to come through from the U.S. government for Black Americans as a whole, those of us with indigenous heritage can actually access our own reparations package right now. In today's video, I'll share exactly how me and my family traced our lineage, secured our tribal citizenship, and unlocked these benefits. So if you've ever wondered how your indigenous roots could lead to reparations today, stick around because I'm going to show you how it's done. And before we jump in, I urge you to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now let's go ahead and get on with the content. Now, before we jump straight on into it, I want to acknowledge the chat. We got Tash Beauty in the house. I see a lot of people filling in from the last live stream over to this one. And what I want to start by doing is educating you all on the Treaty of 1866. If you've never heard about this, this is a situation where post-Civil War, the United States went to Indian Territory, Indian sovereign lands, and they sought to free or emancipate the Black people that were within their territory. And when they came to do that, they saw a very, very interesting scene. You see, these tribes known as the 5 civilized tribes, really they're the 5 most assimilated tribes. They had long-standing European contact. They were kind of, talking white, dressing white, marrying white folks, getting down with the get down, so to speak, if you will. And part of trying to assimilate into European dominant culture was the government forcing on them adopting the practice of slavery. They said, hey, if you Indians want to get down like us, then you know what you got to do? Well, how do I say this? You got to manage some plantations and have your Black tribal members as your slaves. And they were under a lot of pressure by the U.S. government. And some of them said, okay. Some of them were like, nah, we're going to go to war. We'd rather die. Those ones were known as the Seminoles. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Now, when it comes to emancipating these folks post-Civil War, some of you guys may ask yourselves, why did the United States government have to go to the Indian Territory in 1866 to free these Black folks if Abraham's Emancipation Proclamation was in 1863? Well, again, Indian land is sovereign territory. It's not U.S. territory, technically speaking. So Black folks that were in Indian Territory, the Emancipation Proclamation had zero to do with you. You didn't get your freedom until something called the Treaty of 1866. And what happened with this treaty is the government post-Civil War, 1866, goes to these tribes thinking they're going to free these Black slaves, and they look around and say, wait a minute, y'all ain't treating these Black folks like slaves. Y'all having babies with them and marrying them, and y'all all speak the same language, and this is a homogenous society. And sure, they're doing the manual labor, but this is an open and free society for the most part. We told y'all to treat them like slaves. But you see, the Europeans didn't know that American Indians have a different concept of slavery. With American Indians, it was more like indentured servitude, prisoner of war for a little bit, then you get your freedom, right? So, because of how the Indians had such a mixed society with these black folks, they said, hey, you have to not just free them, but you have to give them full tribal benefits and full tribal benefits by way of the Treaty of 1866. And although I'm a member of a tribe that signed that treaty, and I know a lot about the history of 1866, I think it'll be very powerful to hear it from one of our elders, Dr. Clark Anderson. Let's get into it.
Address, if you would, the role that the U.S. government, see, this wasn't willy-nilly cowboys, running wild. This was a U.S. government and its policies that ultimately bastardized, took away from, stole from the Native Americans, made treaties that ultimately were broken. If you want to say willy-nilly, that's where willy-nilly came in. So if you would address that for a moment.
Well, yes, and see, it started at one of the first treaties was the New York Treaty about 1516 that came in. That was one of the first treaties. But in every one of those treaties that they set up with the Indians, they put an inclusion in there saying this, that if you were to cooperate with us and be able to help us maintain the slavery system we set up in this country, and we will reward you and compensate you. We'll give you clothing, we'll give you food, we'll give you weapons, and we'll even call you civilized if you will help us maintain slavery. Every treaty contained a clause to help Indians to shut down black folk. Slavery could never have existed in this country and been maintained without the full participation of the American tribes. That's why they started calling them civilized, Rock, because they began to say, you quit hunting in the woods and running wild and get yourself some land and get yourself some slaves. So Indians became slave hunters, slave traders, and in the final analysis, all civilized tribes, the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians, they all
wait a minute.
fought with the South to maintain slavery.
Wait a minute. This is where we got to fact check the elder. They know not what they do. Fun fact. My tribe is the Muskogee Creek Nation. And when we talk about the Seminoles or the Seminoles, most people don't know that the Seminoles are an offshoot of the Creek Nation. The Seminoles were those who chose to stay, resist, and fight the U.S. government, fight Andrew Jackson, protest Indian removal. They didn't want to go west of the Mississippi. They didn't want to go to Oklahoma. They didn't want to make black folks slaves and participate in these colonial practices. So they went to war with the United States government. It's called the Seminole Wars. Look it up. It lasted over 10 years. So when Dr. Clark Anderson says, hey, all of the five civilized tribes, even the Seminoles, participated in slavery, it's way more nuanced than that. How you gonna tell me the tribe whose name literally means runaway slave? Fun fact, Seminoles translates in Spanish to runaway slave. The tribe that's called runaway slave, that's known for adopting runaway slaves, that's known for banging against the beast, banging against Andrew Jackson, protesting slavery. Y'all gonna try to promote it like they had slaves of their own? I mean, Dr. Clark Anderson, he does great works, but when we're wrong, we're wrong. And we got to look at things with a bit more nuance.
A close relationship developed between Seminoles and blacks on this prairie. Some white observers mistakenly assumed the blacks were slaves to the Seminoles.
Did you guys catch that? He just said some white observers mistakenly assumed the blacks were slaves of the Seminoles. And now, unfortunately, we have Dr. Clark Anderson reiterating that misinformation. That's like, hold on, I see Ty. I see Ty from like half a mile away, and Ty is in a group of people, and Ty is the darkest person out of the group, so I'm going to assume that Ty is their slave. This is how they was trying to do the Seminoles.
It really was not a slave-master relationship. It was more a free existence. They intermarried. The children were accepted in the tribes quite easily. And they had a common interest in wanting to hold that land where they were living freely. They had acquired big herds of cattle themselves. They had nice fields and homes.
Come on. But Dr. Clay Anderson is going to drop some gems. I just had to fact check him a little bit on that one. Just had to fact check him a little bit. But let's get back to the discussion.
And so therefore, and they got benefits from it. And that led to going back to the earlier question you asked me about reparations. And even after the Civil War ended, the Choctaw and Chickasaw was still holding about 12 or 15,000 slaves, even after the Civil War ended. The United States government sent in troops saying, you got to get rid of this slavery and set black folk free. And they set up what's called the 1866 Indian Treaties with these 5 civilized tribes, which says that black people in this country must not only turn them loose, they must get benefits. They must get forms of reparations. Going back to your earlier question, you must first of all set them free. 2, you must give them an option. And this is for all black freedmen and all blacks who lived in the Indian Territory and all black Indians. You must set them.
Did you hear what he just said? Did y'all catch that? It was subtle, but it's important. He said for all black slaves, all black Indians, all black freedmen. These are different classifications of people. There are some black Indians who have 0 African admixture and were never enslaved. There were some black Indians who were maybe half Indian, half African. There were some that were black Indians with no African admixture, but they were reclassified as slaves and then later reclassified as freedmen. So you see how we got to understand the nuance of these classifications. When we even use the term freedman, we think that means slave or African slave. No, freedman is just a status. Freedman is just a brown paper bag test. When it came time to sign up for the Dolls roll, what they did is a brown paper bag test where if you were too dark, they signed you up as a freedman. And we're going to get into that in a bit and why that complicates us establishing our tribal citizenship claim. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I urge you above all else, if you've yet to trace your family lineage, then hit me up. I'm here to help. Most people don't realize that this could result in not just you learning definitively whether or not your ancestors were from Africa, whether or not your ancestors were even enslaved, because mind you, a lot of my genealogy clients, we do the research and they come from free people of color. Some of them even slave masters. Yes, blacks and Indians had slaves of their own at one point in time. In 1670, the state of Virginia, or rather the colony of Virginia, put a new law on the book that black and Indian slave masters had to stop buying white Christian servants. They could only buy slaves from their own race. So history is way more nuanced than people understand. And when we do our genealogy, that's when we're able to figure out what's what.
Glad that, you know what I'm saying, I even, you know what I mean, experienced this. I'm glad I experienced you from, you know what I mean, enlighten me from the internet to, you know what I mean, online, getting one-on-one in depth, giving me a lot of information that I can take back to my people as well. And hopefully we could both get the everything meshing with everything with the lineage and everything with the genealogy. This is no scam. This is all real. This is a real homeboy that put it down. He mean what he say. He got receipts and he put it down. He stands on business. Straight up. One love.
Free, allow them to have membership in the tribe. You must give them, let them have access to all the resources on the reservation. You must let them also be tax exempt. You must let them have free education.
Guys, let's run that back. He's listing the tribal benefits. This broadcast is not clickbait. I'm going to teach you tonight. I'm going to teach you today how you can get reparations in 3 months or less with 3 simple steps. And allow him to list these benefits, to reiterate these benefits. Guys, as a card-carrying American Indian, part of a federally recognized tribe, I get free health care, free dental, free tuition, free down payment assistance for buying property. If I'm applying for a government grant through my nonprofit, I get pushed to the front of the line. If I'm applying for a government position, I get pushed to the front of the line. National parks, I get in for free. If I go to the dispensary and it's on a reservation, I get a discount. I mean, the benefits are numerous, guys. The benefits are numerous. When COVID happened and Trump gave everybody payments of $1,200, I got my payments of $1,200 for being a U.S. citizen. Plus, I got 2 payments of $4,000 on top of that from my tribe because we're a federally recognized tribe. So let's go ahead and run that back. He's listing some of the benefits.
Membership in the tribe. You must give them, make them, let them have access to all the resources on the reservation. You must let them also be tax exempt. You must let them have free education. You must also let them be able to give them $150 in cash. You must give them 160 acres of land. And in present day times, the Black Indians under the 1866 treaty should be getting, they could also hold gambling casinos. Now, this country has never carried out the full mandates, but yet we're still honoring it for Indians. Right now, all the benefits that Indians are getting in this country are getting it from the 1866 Indian Treaty. Because
the only thing stopping you from getting your piece of the pie is tracing your genealogy, establishing which one of your ancestors were a part of which tribe, and applying for citizenship. 3 simple steps. I'm going to teach you how to do it. After this video is over with Dr. Claude, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through Ancestry.com. I'm going to go through the paperwork. I'm going to show you how to trace it on the Dolls roll, all for free 99. These are some of the things I show my clients during the 90-minute genealogy consultations I provide. But tonight, I guess I'm feeling generous because I'm trying to motivate you and help you understand that while it is great for us to advocate for reparations on behalf of all Black Americans as a whole who are descendants of slaves, most of us don't realize if you heard stories from grandma that you got Indian in the family, you may already have a reparations package waiting on you.
They took up arms against the United States in the Civil War. They wiped out all previous treaties. Now, every year in the White House, we get about 560-some white Indian chiefs, which in history they call $5 Indians, because 90% of the people call themselves Indians nowadays are not really Indians. Those are whites passing as Indians. Because
yes, there's so many $5 Indians. I've never been to my tribe's reservation, but if I visited, I'm sure I'd see nothing but $5 Indians for the most part. I mean, one time I did a virtual Zoom class. It was a language class for our language of Muskogee, right? And it was like 30 people on the Zoom call. Everybody had their cameras on, and like 90% of them looked like white folks. And there was a couple sisters on there, a couple Black Indians was there with your boy. But guys, you don't understand. To get your citizenship in order, to get your reparations claim intact, you don't got to go to the reservation. You don't got to go visit Indian territory. You don't have to go schmooze with these $5 Indians on the res. I've never been to the reservation. Don't really have to have any contact with these motherfuckers unless I want to. I decided to take a language class, so that was a weekly Zoom class. I did that. When I applied for citizenship, you do that application process through mail. You don't get interviewed by them. They don't like get a picture of you and discriminate based on your phenotype. No, I got no contact with these motherfuckers, but cut me my check.
They paid $5 to the Dolls Commission to get their name on the Dolls roll so they can get all these advantages. But every year they get invited to the White House. And every year they got an approximate $3.5 billion every year, even that Obama's been in office. They got money into the Federal Indian Bureau. Now, see, if you were to talk about reparations, Black folks have been getting all this money all these years too. But they got shut out because the Indians in 1938, they sent a letter to the Department of Bureau of Indian Affairs saying, how do we shut Black folk down to make sure they never get into reparations? And that letter floated around in the federal government from about 1938 to about 1941.
Let's get into it, y'all. Let's get into it. These $5 Indians adopted colonial practices based on blood quantum. They did a brown paper bag test where if you were too dark when it came time to sign up on the Dolls roll, they signed you up as a freedman. You know what? Let's go ahead and see what happens when you're on the Dolls roll as a freedman. But before we get to that, I'm going to take you from step 1 all the way to step 3 of how you go about tracing your lineage and getting tribal citizenship. This is part of what I teach my clients during the one-on-one genealogy consultations. So I hope you guys are taking notes, and I hope you find value in this information. Give me just a moment. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do is trace your family tree, and I highly recommend using Ancestry.com for that. Don't get it twisted. Ancestry.com does sell those fraudulent DNA testing kits. I'm not talking about a mouth swab. I'm not talking about a DNA test. No. We're talking about paper trail genealogical research. Now, a lot of Black Americans think that they got to trace their lineage back to like the 1600s, 1700s. While we can do that, in order to establish tribal citizenship, we don't have to go back that far. I say early 1800s is a solid starting point. You can see that I've got my father's side traced to about the early 1800s, mother's side traced to the late 1700s. But if you trace your lineage back to the early 1800s, it's a pretty solid foundation. Now, the reason why I say that is because a lot of us have ancestors who were card carrying American Indians in much recent years than we may realize. For example, if I was to highlight my most recent lineal ancestor that was a card carrying American Indian, it would be this guy, Pleasant Tobler. And you see he was born in 1903. That's not really that far back at all. But you know what I want to do? I want to do something special. I want to kill two birds with one stone. I want to show you right now how you can not only follow a 3-step process to get reparations, but I want to also give you a history lesson on racial reclassification. So although Pleasant Tobler is the most recent lineal ancestor of mine, that's a card-carrying American Indian, for today's lesson, I think we want to focus on Thomas. We want to focus on Thomas Jefferson Adams Harcho, and you'll figure out why in just a moment. But either way, guys, this is what you want to do. After you trace your family tree to the early 1800s, this is where most people mess up, because they then go to the Dolls Roll and start typing in names in the Dolls Roll. Although you can search by first name and last name in the Dolls Roll, it's not really definitive. A lot of our ancestors had common names. A lot of our ancestors went by multiple names, multiple spellings. The only way to know for a fact if your ancestors are on the Dolls Roll is to search by the roll number. But how do you find the roll number? Well, to find the roll number, you're going to need to search through dozens and dozens and dozens of American Indian data collections. Freedmen rolls, tribes, chiefs, and treaties, land allotments. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. And what you're looking for is you're looking for documents that have a roll number, kind of like a document like this. You see, with the research that I teach my clients how to do, we're able to get deep. Right now, we're looking at a handwritten document from, what's this, August 8th, 1898? Hold on, no. The most recent date is going to be January 13th, 1900. Okay, so 1900s. And what do we see? Thomas J. Adams. Age 57, sex is male, blood quantum is full. There's his Dolls Roll number, 2145. Right now, we're looking at a Creek Nation roll. Card number 651. And shout out to Ty. Ty says that they've been doing some digging. They've got that document. There you go. Shout out to Tash. Tash says, Mike, I'm going to have to hit you up. I have a lot of info. I just don't know what to do with the rolls, records, and the proof. That's exactly what I teach you guys during these genealogy consultations. 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I give you the game. Star Child says, I prefer you to help me. Just go ahead and hit me up. All you got to do is go to my new website, nativeblack.ancestry.com. You can check out a testimonial from a recent client and book a day and time that works best for you. But let me go back to the task at hand. When we find a document like this, we want to find a roll number, 2145. And don't get it twisted, guys. I'm just showing you willy-nilly what the document looks like, where the document is. It took me hours to find this document. You're going to have to search dozens of databases. You're going to have to search all of your ancestors who were born between the 1800s and the 1900s, which is going to be like 8 to 12 people. And you're going to have to search them through dozens of records. And a lot of our ancestors have very common names. So oftentimes there's multiple positive matches with the same exact first name, same exact last name. So imagine how many documents you have to go through to confirm and verify that this is indeed your ancestor. So don't get it twisted. I'm giving you a high level overview. I'm making it look real simple, real easy, just to show you it's not rocket science. And we can get reparations within the next 3 months instead of holding out for Uncle Sam. But when you get the roll number, 2145, now we want to come to the Dolls Roll. Let's type in that number, 2145, see what we find. Do a little scrolling. What do you know? We got Thomas J. Adams, 57 years old, male, blood quantum is full, Creek by blood. This would be step 2, linking tribal affiliation. Again, step 1, tracing your family tree. Step 2, linking tribal affiliation. You're going to have to search through all these roll records, all of your ancestors through the 1800s and 1900s, and hopefully that road will lead to confirming them on the Dolls Roll. And then you would have verified tribal affiliation. But now when it comes to step 3, applying for citizenship, I mean, that's the most difficult part. But it's not difficult for the reason why most of you may think. The citizenship application It's not rocket science. It's just like applying for a driver's license or a passport. But the hard part is establishing your valid citizenship claim. What do I mean by that? Well, guys, remember earlier when I said that they had a brown paper bag test where they would list you as a freedman if you're too dark? Well, again, they did that on purpose because some of these tribes were ran, and the leaders, the people in position of powers, were $5 Indians with some Europeans cosplaying as Aboriginals. Some of them had anti-black sentiment. So guess what they did? They didn't say, hey, you're black, we don't want you to be a part of the tribe. What they do is this. When it came time to sign up on the dollars roll and get the benefits, they may have signed your ancestor up as a freedman. And do you notice something weird about this list? Let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Let me zoom in. You zoom in nice and big. Now you guys can see this. Thomas J. Adams right here. Dollars roll, Creek by blood, full blood quantum. But guess what? If your ancestor failed the brown paper bag test at that time, they listed them as freedmen, knowing damn well that they do not record the Indian blood for freedmen. Do you see something peculiar here? Whether you're listed as a Creek freedman or a Choctaw freedman or a Chickasaw freedman, the blood quantum category is literally blank. It's literally blank. What does that mean? These were African slaves who had no Indian blood? No, some people who were freedmen were Black Indians who were reclassified with zero African admixture. Freedmen is just a classification. Some of these freedmen weren't even slaves. They were just free people of color that lived in Indian territory. But because you're labeled a freedman, they don't record your blood quantum. So what the tribes do modern day is, again, they don't say, hey, you're black, you can't be a part of the tribe. They say, hey, you want to be a part of our tribe? That's cool. Well, here's an application. But just know this. To be a part of our tribe, you have to not only have an ancestor who's listed on the dollars roll as part of the tribe, but they also have to have a blood quantum. And they do that knowing damn well that if they're listed as a freedman, there's no blood quantum recorded. But wait, there's more. It gets even more complicated because not all tribes discriminate against freedmen. Some of the 5 civilized tribes don't let the freedmen get citizenship. Some of the 5 civilized tribes, like the Seminoles, they don't care if your ancestor is listed as a freedman or by blood. If you're on the dollars roll as a Seminole, period, you get full benefits, you get the reparations package, you get the whole shebang. So as you guys can see, this is a complicated process. Unfortunately, we are made victims of paper genocide. There's not really anybody out there to help us. And when we do look for professional resources, let's go ahead and see what's out there. Has genealogists. Did you guys know that? Let's see what Ancestry.com's genealogy specialist can do for us. Let's see. Okay, if you want a professional from Ancestry.com to help you out, drum roll please, drum roll please, drum roll please. Prices may start as low as $3,500. Yeah, you see how they do it, y'all? At one point in time, they outlawed us being able to read and write. Reclassified us and reclassified us and reclassified us. Now, in recent years, they know we're yearning for the information, so they hide it behind a paywall. If you want help from a genealogist, $3,500. But wait, let's see what you're going to get for that. Let's just play devil's advocate and say you got $3,500 to spend on genealogy research. What are you going to get for your money? They're going to build you an online family tree. They're going to give you an email summary of completed research. Okay. They're going to give you copies of images, documents, photos, clippings, and other evidence. Okay, cool. Bet. Awesome. Well, guess what you're not going to get? Chances are this genealogy specialist through Ancestry.com, they're not a black person. They don't understand racial reclassification. They don't understand that some of your ancestors may be listed on census as mulattoes or Negroes, but that's not the case. We'll get to that in a moment. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, the genealogy specialist through Ancestry.com who's going to charge you $3,500, chances are they're not actually a part of any tribe. And if you think about it, if you really think about it, they want $3,500
just to help you with a family tree. Remember, guys, this is a 3-step process. Family tree is just step one. They want $3,500 just to help you with step one. So now do you guys understand why I was motivated to start my website, nativebblackancestry.com? Why I was motivated to start a genealogy consultation service where I can connect with you one-on-one. No matter what stage you're at in your research, I can give you a personalized consultation to help you get where you need to go. And it's not rocket science. It's not as hard as we think. We just need somebody to show us the way. I didn't have anybody to help me. When me and my family applied for tribal citizenship back in 2021, I made a lot of mistakes on the application. They sent it back. I had to redo it. I mean, it took me about like 3, damn near 4 months to complete. And if you were to do it on your own, shit, it could take you 3 months. It could take you 6 months. I consult with some people and they're like, Mike, I've been doing genealogy research for a couple years. I do it for a few months, then reach a brick wall, and then, get exacerbated and give up for a few months and then come back to it. And next thing you know, a couple years have passed. So guys, if you want to get it done sooner than later, hit me up.
My name is Frances Tuck, and I contacted Mike from Mike TV on YouTube because I wanted to find out about my family's Native American history that I believed existed. Through the research that I was able to do through Mike TV, I was able to find out that our name is indeed on the registry. I had a consultation with Mike today, and because of his advice and the research that he has done, I am now confident that I'm able to find my family's roots in the Native American History database. Thank you, Mike.
Let's talk about it, y'all. When we do the research, we're able to tell our ancestors' stories. Check this out. I didn't know this until I did the research. When we talk about Thomas Jefferson Adams Harcho, he was actually a rather famous individual. Thomas was a distinguished, full-blooded Creek citizen, successful attorney, and respected leader in early Oklahoma. Born into the Creek Nation, Thomas was recognized as a town king for his leadership within his community and for his significant contributions to the legal and political systems of Indian Territory. A skilled attorney, he eventually became the Chief Justice of the Creek Nation Supreme Court, where he made lasting contributions to the judicial landscape of the tribe. As a member of the Creek Nation, Thomas was deeply involved in the affairs of his people, serving as a key figure in both legal and community matters. His success in the legal field, coupled with his respected position in the tribe, established him as one of the most influential Creek citizens of his time. His legacy is further explored in the book Black, White, and Indian: Race and the Unmaking of an American Family. Interestingly, while Thomas was listed as a full-blooded Indian on the Dawes Rolls, the official census that documented the citizens of the 5 civilized tribes, later U.S. Census records categorized them as Negro. This shift in racial classification highlights the complex and often contradictory racial dynamics of the time, particularly the reclassification of Native individuals that had darker skin. It underscores the broader history of racial categorization and the challenges faced by Native Black Americans in a system that frequently erased or marginalized their indigenous identities in favor of racial distinctions. Thomas's story is a poignant reminder of the resilience and adaptability of Native peoples in the face of racial reclassification, and his legacy continues to live on in his descendants, particularly through Michael Lane Jr.'s work in genealogical research and advocacy for Native Black American heritage. So guys, I say all that to say, when I help folks do their genealogy, we find that their ancestors were just as notable. Some of my clients, they got ancestors who were World War II veterans, heroes, Medal of Honor, people who had prominent roles in their communities, people who were instrumental to laying the foundation of America. And we can't know to tell these stories until we do the research. And before we wrap up this broadcast, I want to share with you how deep this racial reclassification goes. Again, we got Thomas J. Adams on the Dawes Roll as full-blooded Indian. Blood quantum is full, 100%. Mama's Indian, daddy's Indian, Creek by blood, as Creek Indian as you can get. But check this out. Check this out. If we check out his profile,
I got a document saved. I've got a census record saved here. We've got a 1900 United States federal census record. Again, I've already shown and proved that Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo is a full-blooded Indian on the Dawes roll. Even though by looking at his picture alone, we clearly see this is a melanated man. Hair's kind of straight, the phenotype's definitely not African, but melanated man nonetheless. Black Indian, if you will, Native Black American, do you hear me? Let's talk about it. But in the 1900 census, let's see what they classify him as. 1900 census, let's view it. 1900 census. Damn, it's kind of in some chicken scratch. Let me see if we can find it. Is this at least alphabetical order? Oh, we see him right here. He's at the top. Thomas Adams. Here we go. Here we go. Color or race B. B for black. Good Lord, good Lord, good Lord. I got an ancestor on the Dawes roll as a full-blooded Indian. But on the 1900 United States federal census, they list him as black. Do you see what we're faced with? Do you see what we're dealing with? I hope you feel armed with information so the next time you're on Twitter or on TikTok or Clubhouse or a live stream somewhere and someone's trying to shit on you and claim that you're just an insecure African and you don't really have Indian roots, well, think back to this and how I showed and proved live in 4K. I shared my screen and went through my own genealogy, my own family tree to show you the reclassification of the Black Indian. Let's talk about it, y'all. Let's talk about it. Before we wrap up this broadcast, if there's anybody in the chat that has any questions for me, we'll do a quick Q&A and then we'll wrap up. Let me see what you guys have been talking about. Ty says, my folks are from North Carolina. Oh, yeah. Most of my clients, they're from the East Coast, Southeast, some from Cali, from all over. But when we do the research, we find our ancestors have been here since the first census was taken. Come on. Terry says, fam, I am on that site and was trying what you said for years. Thank you, Mike. Hey, thank you for your message. That's exactly why I do what I do. Tash Beauty says, I tap back into my genealogy once a year. It's a lot to take in and digest. I've also done my DNA, so I scan for Africans too on the app. Yeah. See, perfect example. This stuff can be so, it's not rocket science, but it can just be so painstaking, so cumbersome that I hear from clients all the time. Like, hey, Mike, I went through this other YouTuber and he scammed me. Or, hey, Mike, I've been trying to do it on my own and I'm paying $30 a month for Ancestry for a couple of years. And I still, I'm still reaching glass ceiling. So, yeah, 90-minute consultation. I'll set you right. Ty says he's super not African. Yeah, you refer to Thomas. Yeah. And I'm telling you, genealogy is an ongoing process. Although I mapped out my family tree years back, I didn't find this photo of him until maybe like 4 months ago. And when I found this photo, like, it was a lot to take in. It was a lot for me to take in because, it's black and white. So it's like, it's a little hazy. But you can tell he's a black man. Like you can tell he has melanin. You can tell he's copper colored or even darker. But then the hair is like a bit straight at the top, and and then the mustache and and then the nose. The phenotype is definitely not African, but census records gonna reclassify him as black, even though he's on the Dawes roll as full-blooded Indian. Not just that, but it turns out he's an Indian king, Chief Justice of the Creek Nation Supreme Court. Hey, and if we really want to get into it, if I really am feeling transparent, not only was he a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, town king, successful Black Indian lawyer, but truth be told, when we do the genealogy research, we find some very, very interesting things about our ancestors. It wasn't until I found a picture of his gravesite that I discovered that this Black Indian was also a Freemason. Y'all see this on his gravestone, right? If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Nowadays, with the access to the World Wide Web, you don't have to be initiated to know what this means. So goddamn, we do the genealogy research and we find we got ancestors that are war heroes, lawyers, doctors, successful pastors, preachers, you name it. And sometimes we find Black Indian Freemasons, y'all. Y'all, if I made that a channel to, if I made that a title to a YouTube video, y'all would think I was on some pseudo shit. Y'all would think I went off the deep end. If I did a live stream and y'all seen that Mike was live and the title of my video was Black Indian Freemason, y'all would be like, Mike has gone pseudo. But this is just how deep our ancestry gets. I actually got some German-Irish ancestry as well, and I find Freemasons on that side too. So I got German-Irish Freemasons on the mama side, and I got Black Indian Freemasons on the daddy side. Okay, interesting. Interesting. And yes, a lot of Black folks have ancestors who were Masons or members of the Eastern Star. Facts. Facts. Let's talk about it. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hopefully I've educated you. Hopefully I've enlightened you. Hopefully you clicked on this video and said, what the fuck? Reparations in 3 months, a 3-step plan? Oh, hell no. And then after watching it, you said, wait a minute. I didn't know about the Treaty of 1866. Wait a minute. I haven't done my genealogy. Wait a minute. My ancestors do pass down stories of us being Indian. Wait a minute. What we learned through taking a look through history is that the truth is much, much stranger than fiction. I hope to be connecting with you guys one-on-one sometime soon, whether through a genealogy consultation or through a Native Black American history tour I'm putting together. I'm making the official announcement Friday, but in April, I'm going to lead a history tour in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're going to walk the side of Black Wall Street, meet with the mayor, some prominent individuals, do some sightseeing, and connect with some like-minded individuals. So if you're interested in learning more about that history tour I'm setting up in Tulsa, Oklahoma for April of this year, go ahead, send me an email, mike@nativeblackancestry.com. Again, my email is mike@nativeblackancestry.com. All you got to do is send me an email with the subject line history tour, and I'll give you a list of the itinerary, what the tickets are going to go for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, this is just like a special sneak peek announcement for you guys joining this broadcast. I'm going to make the official announcement this Friday. Shout out to Manhattan. He says, your great uncle's a traveler man. Yep. Yep. D says, my great grandfather looked like that way too. Yep. Exactly. Let's talk about it. Stay vigilant, guys. It was a pleasure connecting with you this evening. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.